issues. They figured out whatever the problems were. But hey, Adam, Monster has similar taste as you. He's also in DGen because two great minds must think alike.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. Sundown, obviously you weren't on the same DGen Niomzo bandwagon there. Fashion Pams though, why?
I've been stuck on the Fashion Pamsa one, predicted them on Friday. A broken clock eventually has to be correct, and they've looked really good. So I'm hoping that my
Jamper and Dukes as well. I mean, he can tell us is casting the action alongside Monster. This is going to be so. This is a momentous day in Fortnite history, guys. This is going to be epic. Over to you, fellas. Let's do this thing. Game 1 is coming.
Hey, man. Listen, I'm happy to be here. I'm even more happy to be alongside my man, Vivid. We're bringing the action today. Let's talk about these picks, though, Vivid. Let's get into Fortnite, because that's what we are here for. You're jumping into the Jamper and Duke train right now. Talk to me about your pick.
Listen, you know, I kind of went against my own policy here, right? They haven't been doing too in FNCS. We have Duke, Mira, and Booga right at the top of the Grand Royale, right? So we have Duke up there. And then we see Jamper, Day, and Tragic's also right in the second place spot in that Grand Royale as well, right? So we have a duo that is formed from people who have gotten first and second in these events already. So I'm coming into this qualifier. They didn't do too well yesterday, but I think that they are well-vetted players. They have the experience, and especially when you take into consideration that coming from qualifier 1 that we had this weekend to qualifier 2, you know, we got a bunch of players that are new. They don't necessarily have this experience. These well-vetted players, man, they got to be able to place, and I think that they can.
Yeah, no doubt. And not only that, the dynamic of the map's going to be a little bit different. So Friday might have been a rough day. We have new players on the map. We have new contested drop spots happening all around. One of the particular picks, in my opinion, is the reason I'm leaning into Iamzo and DGen, right? They were tested, battle tested by Knifer and Bila there yesterday or on Friday, the previous qualifier. It was a tough fight for them, both of which came up a little bit short, right? Didn't quite have the performance they were looking for, but that's what you expect of a contested team. It's going to be a lot harder for you this time around. Being uncontested, we're going to see, because the battle bus is here. Game number 1 of the FNCS is underway. We're going to kick it off right now.
All right, here we go, getting straight into the action. I am really curious to see how this early game pans out. We know that MDF has alluded to Iamzo being uncontested over at the Llama spot. That is going to be huge for them. I am also confident in saying that I believe that Jamper is going to be uncontested at Chonkers Speedway. That being said, though, we're going to be taking a look at some of the action down here at the Windmill Split.
Yeah, it's that big fight that somebody's gun was talking about, but Sundown said it best. I believe the two teams down here are in for a surprise. If they think they're going to do well, this is a very interesting place to take any kind of early action and or engagement. Now, it's not a traditional one. They kind of are split, but on the other side, a more head-to-head clash is going down right now. Sprite already losing his teammate Nounsy, but he does get the siphon onto Agers there, so there's a deadly exchange happening between the two, and a pretty even face-off here, as Rise has about the same health that Sprite does right now. So, I mean, Vivid, what's the play here? Disengage, take the small victory, go to the reboot van. Like, there's a couple options here.
Listen, as we can just see, Sprite just got a buttload of meds. He has so many chug buses that he has to take advantage of. And as you can see, he is going to go ahead and do that now. He's going to use them, make sure he creates some space. He's actually going to go for a little bit of an interesting peek. And yeah, he's just getting worked right now by Rise. Rise is finding all the angles. Finally, Sprite with a nice edit. And man, Rise, even though all the odds were against him, he actually finds some crazy angles and just was so much better in that environment.
That's crazy. Game number 1 off to a bang here as Rise and Agers clash up against Sprite and company. Listen, what a fight there. Yes, we have to run it back for a quick second just to see how things started off. So it was actually Rise who catches the first elimination here, tags up Sprite big time here, but man, even with that advantage, how do you connect this flawlessly, just quicker on the draw there? Rise is a deadly bad man, and he proves it. On over to the Daily Bugle, though, we have Macwood and Donnie here. Oh, they had a hard and a difficult time here yesterday, but maybe it was because Bucky was just on fire, right, with Cam 1X?
Yeah, I believe that when Macwood was landing here, they were actually contested by Polarized, but I think they got a little too comfortable because at one point, I believe it was the first like 2 games, they kind of got out of the Daily Bugle untouched, but then eventually Polarized showed up and was like, hey, listen, I don't necessarily think that we should just let these guys walk away from our drop spot anymore. Maybe it was like a Storm Surge problem that Paralyzed was having to where they wanted to be a little bit more aggressive off spawn, but regardless, look at Macwood and Donnie here. They already are going to be full shield here pretty soon, and Macwood's got some pretty good loot, even though they are splitting this drop, like an MK7, a striker, shotgun to boot, you know, and you got to speak about the web shooters, right? Those are so valuable in these lobbies.
And not to mention the 3 points to kick things off to a much better start than yesterday, where they were eliminated quite quickly out the gate multiple times back-to-back. So a couple 3-point swings here. That's the difference in the format today. The format is going to heavily favor taking these engagements and winning them. The rewards now in the later stages are kind of amplified here, so these elims are worth a fair amount. Now, though, between Chubbs and Twix here, they're kind of sizing up Team Assault down low, who are staying hip-to-hip with one another. This is how you want to play these kind of engagements right now, but taking it slow and steady does come with its own risk. As we're seeing now, Chubbs is trying to look for the angle here. They definitely have the piece control. They have most of the builds here, but they're not wasting any time, so you got to get some farm on. Looks like this might end up in a little bit of a disengage here.
Yeah, you got to be really careful in these early game situations, right? Like, you can see that they have the high ground, they have plenty of shield, they have the weaponry, but the longer that you sit here, the less time that you are taking making progression towards your mid and late game. In the late game and the mid game, you need mats. You need to be able to sustain throughout any damage that you take. You need to be able to build throughout each one of those stages. And the longer that you kind of just sit here, you're not really working towards that. And as you can see, if you look down on the bottom right, the map, we can see that the zone is actually pulling somewhere to the northwest. So they definitely are going to have to travel at least some bit. So we can see here that this guy right here, Statics, he only has a total of like 13 builds, and that's like nothing. You know, we got other players in the lobby who are uncontested. They're working their way up towards 150 total builds right now.
Here's a rough fight going on for Sensei and Cold, who have the disadvantages up against Muzz and Avery. Big team, big clash going down right now. Scented and Cold should know better than to take one of these early game engagements, especially with how quick it's chewing through the builds here. You can tell the veterans managed to hold off just enough, but it looks like it was a fight for loot. So Muzz and Avery might have best of the team here. Sensei and Cold slide on up. They get to bully them off of the rewards, but at what cost? It is going to come to the detriment of a couple heals, but not the end of the world, as they do have the movement. They get some tags. Remember, these tags are going to be crucial in the bigger scheme of things, the grand scheme of things. As we get that little map shot down there, this is a full-on northwestern pool. So, yes, they're safe for now, but there's plenty of, I guess, you know, space to work off of, right? They're not completely safe just yet. They have a long game in front of them.
Yeah, and we know Scented, right? He makes it to so many end games. We always see consistently, maybe not necessarily always winning those end games, but we can always find him, always rely on him to be in the end game somewhere on the low ground. And to be able to do that, you got to be able to consistently find the Storm Surge throughout this early game. So, you know, we can see Scented focusing around like the edge kind of zone here, where there's a nice little hill where he can post up on, and a little bit of a fight that we saw him get into over some resources and stuff like that. But he knows what is worth it and what is not worth it.
Positions that I'm proud to see Degen and the Yamzo in, right? They definitely have their drops themselves, but let's talk about the loadout here. Long range weapon, right? So we have the long range rifle in hand. We have the SMG here, no shotgun in play. This is the harder, I guess, of the two options, right? Between the MK7 and this rifle here, you really have to have your first shot accuracy down packed. That's kind of the play right now, right? If they're playing this passive, this could be a team that could be facing potential Storm Surge issues in the long run.
Yeah, I actually really like the Ranger Assault Rifle personally, especially in a situation like this. Degen is well known to have a very good aim, and the fact that they're all the way on top of this very tall hill means that they are going to have to be taking some long-range shots, and the MK7 isn't necessarily the best at doing that, but the Ranger with that first shot accuracy does work from distance.
Yeah, for sure. Muzz and Avery on the other side also with the MK7 in hand. This is pretty much a face-off between the two. On the bottom, you have Scented, who's in a completely different situation, but for Muzz and Avery, they're looking to take this open toe exchange. This is something you see between pro players happen pretty consistently, right? They're willing to kind of stand out in the open, take these shots, take that risk, and hope that they can land the shot first, be a little bit quicker, be more accurate. Muzz does not get the shots he's looking for. Guard still very high here. Another opponent off in the distance. Ooh, he's going to be very upset that he's missing these, though. These are very crucial opportunities now. Not many are going to start presenting themselves later as the game begins to develop, though.
Yeah, it's crazy. You can be like later on in the game and you're sitting there, you're like, man, how have I not done enough damage yet? And then maybe you go back for a VOD review and you're watching yourself take some of these shots and you're just like, oh man, I gotta hit some aim training or something like that. But nonetheless, you know, it is some far range shots and it is still early on in this game. They have plenty of time to secure some of those Storm Surge tags. But we know Muzz, we know Avery, they are well vetted players, especially considering that Avery has played with the likes of like Booga before. You know, there's a lot of some of that information that gets transferred between these players when they play with one another. And then Muzz, great experience in a whole different region. This guy's cross-regional at this point. Came over from OC, which has been the big story around Muzz, and he has done absolutely well on the North American East region.
Avery, that's an exciting dude coming. But now we have the pleasure of watching. Here's Glace. This dude, they already have 2 eliminations, which is pretty big here. Heavy common shotgun in hand. This is definitely one of the more favorites of the few. These guys are pretty much tucked far and away, safe in the zone, no one in sight. Playing this far western portion, you can see they're just comfortable with the rotate right now. Try to buy themselves some dead side. Now, only a few teams can actually pull this off comfortably at this point, right? You have to have been a team that wiped another squad out. Otherwise, you'd be putting yourself in a big risk situation, being this far off from what we would call the population of the rest of the server. Now, little do they know, there is a team ever so close sneaking on up, and judging by the speed at which they're moving, I don't think they have a vehicle, so they have the drop right now as Baka and Glace are in the low ground here.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where you could get a little too comfortable as, you know, we keep an eye on the map down there. They are getting a little closer, and yeah, there we go. A big beam comes out. But if we look at Baka's heals here, he's got plenty of heals to heal up, but we just got to get a full reset. You can see we have a river right here that's running right here, so they're in a little bit of a valley. There's big hills all around them, which could make...
Right here, it looks like they have a lot of loot to play with, and on go and take a look at what went down here from Shoni and Polo 13's perspective. They just get lined up on it. Seems like Quanti and Peterbot got here pretty quick and were even faster to get the shots off as they just murked that team. And my gosh, they were, if I had to guess, probably rotating on by, melted in the process. Quanti and Peterbot wasted no time to finish that battle up.
Yeah, I feel like we definitely got half the story on that one. Looks like they were just running around those builds. That player felt like he was a little comfortable in the open, which was a little weird. Peterbot and Quanti, though, creating a quick pinch around him to make sure that he couldn't really go anywhere. So well done by them nonetheless. But again, look, we see the prioritization of these hill positions. Rise and Agers, even though they already have 2 eliminations, they're still looking for that Storm Surge. And man, Scented actually reviving Cold. We're going to have to get the story on this. It looks like they don't have any eliminations, but Larson and Smite very close. Going to be box fighting now for Storm Surge, essentially.
Not going to work out at all. Sensi gets wrapped up right there by Smite and Larson. And man, for Scented, it's been a rough day since Friday. I mean, already, right, off to just missing qualification by a hair, then to come on in after a long qualification round 1, steps into round 2, gets dropped early here today in game number 1. That's probably the worst kind of start that you can be off to, right? Not really catching any eliminations or breaking placement threshold. This is actually much more stacked than we saw the games on Friday. The NAE's pacing was off like crazy, right? We had a lot of action happening last time around. Now we have tons of more teams, and I think that's because reality setting in, right? This is the pressure of the situation now. It's like, hey, these are like one of the last opportunities we get to punch our way straight to finals here.
Yeah, you know, hypothetically, when we think about the format, we know that next weekend is our semifinals, and there are 2 ways to qualify after you get there. It's a victory route or top 6, right? And right now, you're in a situation where you have to get top 8 to qualify to those grand finals. Now, obviously, you don't do it this weekend. You're not completely out of the competition, but if some of these players, you know, maybe they're thinking, oh, I can't even get top 8 in what's technically supposed to be an easier bit of a round, then how am I going to get top 6, you know what I mean, next weekend? So that pressure, like you alluded to, is potentially coming in, and some of these players might be getting nervous, so they're more like likely to play safe and not necessarily go for these eliminations in the early game.
Yeah, and of the stats, I mean, they show you need about 4 very, very solid games in order to break up into those top placing spots already. A team like Sentinel and Cold dropping one puts them at a huge disadvantage coming in here. And I mean, 8 other teams are part of that same exact situation as D-Roller and Trashy get taken out there. And you can see the feed lighting up just a bit as teams are trying to figure out their Storm Surge situations. Now, 14 players have to go down now before this cutoff is completely met, before the threshold turns off the Surge. Otherwise, it's going to continue to rain down lightning bolts. And you can see it's already happening here. Users in Man City's Threats, one of the few teams that have this issue on hand here. They're way below Threats. If he gets tagged one more time, no, there it is. Gets just enough damage to stay in the game, but this is close. They're not completely safe, not just yet. Other favorites, Muzz and Avery get sniped out of the competition. Larson and Smite also had to make a quick move. We were just on them, seeing that they were comfortable. These are teams that rotated in from the Storm line, and then meet teams that are on fire. Smite and Larson now taking out, what's that, 2 of the caster favorite picks. My gosh, how the tables are turning now.
Yeah, they are on a tear, but look at this. They are 697 damage above. Some of these players are looking at damages that they're like below, and they're just like, man, how can I get some tags? You can play like these guys Scented. They're walking away with, you know, a lot of shield here. 6 minis, 3 bigs on Smite himself. I'm sure Larson has a similar inventory, so this is looking really, really great for those guys. But that just turns into one of those situations, right? That Storm Surge comes in, you're on the rotate, you're a little bit behind, and then all of a sudden you're on the Storm edge, and, you know, you just got to go for a quick battle, which is why we saw Muzz and Avery kind of just quickly get in. But Users, though, finding a quick beam in the back, I don't know if he actually hit any shots right there.
No, they did not connect this onto Day. Day, who I don't see the teammate here. Wait a second, might be his lucky situation right now as another team was just nearby. They actually put additional pressure here. Day finds a counter tag as well. This could be enough for them to, you know, respectively decide, hey, is it even worth pushing this player right now? But no, Day's going to leave his backside open. This is probably the biggest mistake he'll make of the day here. Now comes Users. Users looking for the angle. It's a 2v1 in the box situation. Doesn't matter how good you are, Deshaun, you're not going to get away from 2 pro players on the heels with the Storm pressure. In addition here, it's going to work out for Users and Threats as they kind of claw back into the situation right now, but pressure is on. This Storm's going to really start to chunk soon. If they don't make it in time, it'll be a 5 tick, but it should be A-okay, right? We have some peppers. Other highlights going down right now. Don't worry, we're keeping you guys in the loop here. Evasion and Zerch. You might have been wondering, how in the world did they take that engagement? What went down here? It was a phase check into the box, followed by big counter fire and shots from Curse, and he was able to clutch up that 2v1 situation for him and his teammates. Not bad at all. Look at this, though. Users, man. He hasn't stopped since.
Yeah, the reason why we're seeing, again, so many of those close range fights go down very, very quickly is because of that Storm Surge that all these players get worried about. But Users and Threats, they actually make it in. I was a little bit worried about them because, as you can see, there is a lot of congestion on this southeast side of the zone. That's because a lot of players have been rotating out of there. There's been a couple fights that went down on every single side of it. So a lot of people down there. But Iamzo and Degen in a really good spot, especially with that little wind tunnel that they have right next to them.
Yeah, definitely don't want to fall prey to anyone here. So having this extra bits of mobility will be huge. At least having options is really what you want to be in with these kind of situations. Now, look at the congestion right now. With this zone pushing far west, it's continuing to do that. So that rollover of the zone moving in the same direction is forcing players to hub on top of these little pieces of high ground. But not only that, because you're comfortable being in the zone, you start to get more and more people on top of the real estate. So this is becoming more and more of a difficult situation for Smite and Larson, though, who are pretty much leading the server right now at 4 eliminations, the most points by far. That's why you see that big beam and that glow on top of them. They're looking pretty solid here. One of the players in sight was Pamstu, just underneath. Did not see Thatch near him, so that's a little bit worrisome for someone like Pamstu. And yes, it does seem like he lost his teammate, so Pam's got another uphill battle for him as well in front of him as we're starting to approach the mid game now.
Yeah, and here we go. We are going to have this zone start to move towards the 5th one now. Interesting to see how these guys are actually going to make this rotate. Are they going to use the pad that they have to jump at? No, they're just going to go down and walk it. Interesting decision because, you know, you mentioned that congestion that's happening on the east side of the zone. They are also on the east side of the zone, so they are going to opt to walk with all these other players, and I'm just not sure if this is going to be able to work out for them. So we're going to have to see what happens there. They might have to panic and go ahead and use that jump pad that I know that they have from one of those eliminations that they picked up earlier.
I love this, though. This is like peak Fortnite new season in play here. They're like, hey, we don't need a launch pad because because we have the mountain playing into our favor. We can just, you know, swiftly slide our way down the zone here, and it actually works out for the most part.
Yeah, that was good.
About 200 of the heavy materials, but look at this. They get into the zone. They manage to recycle some of the opponent builds, and just like that, they're inside the zone. Now they get to keep a launch pad for zone 6 after the half in. So very, very nice for Reciprocal, though. Not looking too hot as Convicted and company on the other side of the wall. Too many teams are sandwiching in now. This is you know, this is more than a party. We have a parade going down right here. As, again, the zone is just telling us a story in its own. There are so many players here, and another surge warning is forcing the fights. Now, if you're a team that's above the surge, and you're hearing all this action, you're probably going to jump in because you can, right? The points are equally as tempting.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, right? We get done talking about, oh, how are these players going to rotate? And instantly, as they make the rotations, the storm surge warning comes up. So these players got to constantly be worried about so many different things at once. But still, though, storm surge's problem is not solved for everybody. Still, 5 players have to go down. And half zone is coming up quick in only 20 seconds. And as you can see, there's only about 5 total teams in that half zone right now. So we're going to see like 20 plus teams rotating directly towards that small bit of area. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But 20 over the Storm Surge going for a quick play and actually gets a knock on the Amzo. That is huge.
Yeah, but the pickup should be able to come in here. Although the zone is starting to move right now, there's enough time to go in and get that. Here's Shadow 1X right now. Also in a dire situation. Not only is Storm Surge on, but there's pressure coming in from the other side. Big knocks here for Rise and Agers, who are on fire now, looking to kind of jockey their way up to that #1 position. But OMG Me Too says, hold up, it's not over yet. You may have gotten my teammate, but you have to find me first, and these are his builds. It's his world, and he's making good control of the situation here. Wait for him to bounce back and hold on to pretty much the game at this point, as it was almost all over. And look, he slides out to the side. No big heals, but he is in the game. That's all that matters. For every team now that starts to fall after top 25, there are placement points to be made. Peterbot about to lose Quanti. Can he get the save here in time? There goes the Chug Spot to give him a little bit more room to breathe here. Oh. But no, here comes the asphyxiation, the big choke out from the other teams nearby. He's going to have to give up his teammate. He takes the fight instead of backing off Vivid. Very bold move of him, but he's feeling confident. He's still here for the battle.
He is holding his ground here. 2-1 situation, editing amongst all of that, going for some shots. Very well played from Peterbot. Obviously, ultimately cannot end up saving Quanti, his teammate. But let me tell you, if I was Quanti, I'd be proud of my teammate putting up a fight for me like Peterbot just did. But a big development over here, Larson and Smite. Smite actually goes down, and Larson kind of in a similar situation as Peterbot, trying to fend for his teammate's life. Ultimately, not going to be successful. But Larson is in a good position here because he has 7 uses of the web shooter, and we're going to see that immediately come into play. As long as he gets it off, yeah. He almost got caught by somebody there as if they were fishing for him, but he's good. He's chilling. He's got 150 total HP after you use that med miss there, so he should be in a good position.
Look at this. Peterbot actually got a knock onto users. Man, we just saw that little clip of users in the situation here, the pre-show, showing how a little insight onto users and how much knowledge he has. But even all that knowledge is not going to hold you back against someone like Peterbot, who's on fire. Back over to Larson, though, who's trying to sit up. They've set a crazy standard here. 5 eliminations coming into endgame already. What can Larson do now that he's lost his teammate in Smite? Smite, who had the bulk of that firepower here. But these mythic hands, the spider web shooters, will allow you to travel and traverse the zone, so he should be able to steal away tons of more placement unless someone gets in the box, which just happened. But Peterbot has a story of its own going down right here. He finds Nick. That's 4 for Peterbot now, who is on fire here, bringing his team up to 6 eliminations. We love to see it. Full loadout, full deck of cards in hand, except he doesn't have the ammunition. This is one of the worst situations to be in as a pro player, not having that additional pressure. He's going to see opportunity after opportunity open up in front of him and not be able to take advantage. So now comes down to strategic play, right, Vivid? He has to stay alive here. He has to play smart and basically somehow pull a refresher off.
Yeah, but look at this. We have Macwood and Donnie on top of the server. They're going to be playing for the high ground here. Very, very cool to see. We talked about them at the Daily Bugle, see how this is going to develop. Looks like they walked away scot-free. So they're going to be playing the high ground. And let me tell you, the high ground in this season is very, very strong because you have these high fire rate weapons in the MK7 and the Stinger SMG that just pressure the entire lobby down as long as you have the ammo to back it up. But Macwood looking like he's only running on 40 AR bullets right now. But Peterbot, again, look at him. He is still thriving on the low ground. Finds himself in a stable position with 17 builds left. The moving zone is about to move, though. He's got 5 seconds until he's got to make a decision on where he's going to go next. And it doesn't look like he has an easy way out.
No, definitely not. This is all unfamiliar territory. The base just plays out.
Yeah.
It goes back in his favor. Peterbot does manage to stay alive now. He did have a couple players in his line of sights here. Can he find an elimination is the real question. Dusky on the front side of zone looking very comfortable, but it's Peterbot, our current lobby leader who has the most points just off of Elan's alone. Still up, still holding on. In comes someone into the box, and no, it's Okiss, someone who is deadly with the rifle, barrel stuffs him and gets him out of here. Iamza goes down as DJ goes for the high ground play. It's a 1v2 situation into the box. It's not enough. He gets shut down as well. Macwood and Donnie have been gifted the high ground for free all this time. For free, just coasting along here. Plenty of material as well. Here, Vivid, listen, this is a comeback situation for Donnie and Macwood. Are we watching the development of a tough day yesterday, but a comeback run now?
You know, I think so. They are definitely probably guaranteed, hopefully not caster cursing for the first time here, but they're probably guaranteed like top 3. Though it is worrisome because they don't have a lot of ammo to pressure the rest of the lobby, so it could be a potential for the low ground to actually win this game. But Play using the web shooters there to grab them like a harpoon does, grab some mats real quick, so that's cool to see. But as this lobby develops, we can see a lot of players playing that low ground now. We can see Golden there in the middle there, find himself through some old builds, going to be keeping himself safe, which is awesome. Baka, though, trying to play the low ground against Dusky, but Dusky is doing well and preventing them from rotating, which is really, really good because you want to claim as much space as you possibly can.
Here comes Chucky sweeping around the side here, our current point leader, right? So we had the camera on top of Peterbot for quite some time, but Chucky says, put it on us here, as Glace and Chucky already have, make that 8 eliminations. I was going to call 7, make it 8 as they find Dusky in the low ground. So Glace is definitely picking up the refresher that they need. Now, no more material, though. Ooh. Chucky gets rolled up from behind and steamrolled by Golden there. Oliver, though, does have a win condition, right? So this is a team with a true win condition. They have the mythic hands, Playify and Oliver, but Golden's trying to see what he can do. He's playing the zone right now. Very smart for him to just go ahead, take his time here, try to squeeze out some placement points. And this is going to come down to the element of surprise, but a little late. One choke build could be enough. Here comes the swing in. It's a 2v1. Shut down. 3 more points for Oliver, OG, and Playify. Macwood and Donnie have done an exceptional job of pretty much coasting their way across the height, but can they close out now as they're out of builds here? This is still winnable.
Oh,
no.
There we go.
Donnie, good enough, quick enough, and hits the shots that he needed to close that game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was worried there. I was watching them on the high ground. He was running out of SMG bullets, and he had no builds left either, but they ended up doing enough damage to Oliver and Playful, especially Golden there as the solo. He was coming in, kind of created a distraction to where he could open up some angles for Macwood and Donnie to actually play around, and Macwood and Donnie controlling the high ground for what it looked like for that entire end game, and they just coasted straight to that first victory route of the day.
And one thing we're not seeing very much of this season or this chapter so far is high ground retakes. Although we have launch pads in play, although we have mythic web shooters in play as well, people have been way more passive with the high ground. Could just be the result of new names, new rosters hopping on up, and maybe people are still getting comfortable for this new season here with it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a whole new meta. It's a whole new chapter, a bunch of items. Speaking about all the stuff that went down that game, I'm excited to see what the desk has to say about it. Man, usually I'm on the other side of this, but let's see what the boys on the desk got for us.
I can't believe it. I'm catching from Vivid. This is awesome. I can't believe this is fantastic. What a day. What a day for me personally. That was incredible. Obviously, we saw Donnie and Macwood there, claiming high ground. And again, similar to Qualifier 1 here, SPG, we saw that there was not really anyone trying to contest them for that high ground. They were kind of there to reign free and just enjoy their time until endgame, and they won it through.
Yeah, it's really funny. You see Bucky and Cam, they move on. Now, Macwood, Donnie landed in the same spot, playing the same exact high ground strategy, taking it early and just holding it throughout the entire end game. Hey, maybe someone knows the recipe for success here, Sundown.
I mean, it feels like teams don't want to risk the opportunity of going up and challenging the already established high ground. But with high ground just winning out, you have to feel like there might end up being just a little bit more of a contest, a little bit more sense of
like you wanna. I